bus filled with politicians was driving through the countryside one day. On the campaign trail, the bus driver caught up in a beautiful scenery, loses control and crashes into a ditch. A farmer living nearby hears the horrible crash and rushes out to discover the wreckage. Finding the politicians, he buries them. The next day, the police comes to the farm to question the man. "So you buried all the politicians?" asked the police officer. "Were they all dead?" The farmer answered, "Some said they weren't, but you know how politicians lie." The crowd had gathered around the whore and they were about to stone her. Jesus stepped in front of her and said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." From the back of the crowd came the stone which hit Jesus on the head and knocked him down. Jesus turned and looked in the direction and said, "You know, Mom, sometimes you really piss me off." And is walking past this house when a used car comes flying out of the second-story window and lands squarely on his head. Rather disgusted and absolutely furious, he goes up to the front door and starts pounding on it. An elderly man opens it and asks him what caused him to knock so loudly. The passerby asks, "Who's in your upstairs room?" The elderly man replies, "I can't see how it's any of your business. Since you must know, my daughter and intended son-in-law are upstairs." The passerby hands him the used condom and says, "Well, I just wanted you to know that your intended grandchild fell out of the window."
A cross and hungry panda went into a bar and, without ordering a drink, demanded a bowl of free bar snacks. The bartender refused. Those snacks are for paying Patreons. So the panda grabbed the nearest bowl, gobbled up all the snacks, then he pulled out of the revolver, shot the bartender dead, and stalked out. The patrons all asked each other who was that masked murderer. The quiet little guy at the end of the bar calmly answered, "That was a panda. He eats, shoots, and leaves."
Walks into a bar and notices 2 pieces of beef nailed to the ceiling. He asks the barman why they're there. "It's a competition. If you can climb up there and get those bits of meat down, you'll get free drinks all night. If you try and fail, then you'll have to buy a round for everyone in the pub. Do you fancy having a go?" The man has a long, hard look at the ceiling before saying, "No, I'll just have a pint, thanks. The stakes are too high." Husband and wife were having a fine dining experience at their exclusive country club when this stunning young woman comes over to their table, gives the husband a big kiss, says she'll see him later, and walks away. His wife glares at him and says, "Who was that?" "Oh," replied the husband, "she's my mistress." "Well, that's the last straw," says the wife. "I've had enough. I want a divorce. I'm going to hire the most aggressive, meanest divorce lawyer I can find and make your life miserable." "I can understand that," replies her husband. "But remember, if we get a divorce, it will mean no more wintering in Key West or the Caribbean, no more summers in Tuscany, no more Cadillac STS in the garage, and no more country club. And we'll have to sell the 26-room house and move to 2 smaller homes. But the decision is yours." Just then, a mutual friend enters the restaurant with a gorgeous young woman on his arm. "Who's that with Jim?" asks the wife. "That's his mistress," says the husband. The wife replies, "Ours is prettier." Sattie's husband, Jake, has been slipping in and out of coma for several months. Yet his faithful wife stays by his bedside day and night. One night, Jake comes to and motions for her wife to come closer. He says, "My Sattie, You have been with me through all the bad times. When I got fired, you were there to support me. When my business failed, you were there. When I got shot, you were by my side. When we lost the house, you gave me support. When my health started failing, you were still by my side. You know what, Sadie? What, dear? She asked gently. I think you're the bad luck. A woman is in bed with her lover, who also happens to be her husband's best friend. They have sex for hours, and afterward, while they're just lying there, the phone rings. Since it is the woman's house, she picks up the receiver. Her lover looks over at her and listens, only hearing her side of the conversation. She is speaking in a cheery voice. Hello. Oh, hi. I'm so glad that you called. Really? That's wonderful. I am so happy for you. That sounds terrific. Great. Thanks. Okay. Bye. She hangs up the telephone and her lover asks, who was that? Oh, she replies, that was my husband telling me about the wonderful time he's having on his fishing trip with you. Doctor, doctor, shouted the woman coming into the doctor's office. I think I'm turning into a man. Then the doctor says, now hold on, little lady. What makes you think that you're turning into a man? Well, said the woman, I'm starting to grow hair on my chest. And then the doctor asked, well then, how far down your chest is your hair growing? And then she replied, all the way down to my beautiful, voluptuous woman went to a gynecologist. The doctor took one look at this woman and all his professionalism went out of the window. He immediately told her to undress. After she had disrobed, the doctor began to stroke her thigh. Doing so, he asked her, do you know what I'm doing? Yes, she replied. You're checking for any problems. That is right, said the doctor. He then began to fondle her breasts. Do you know what I'm doing now? He asked. Yes, the woman said. You're checking for any lumps or breast cancer. Correct, replied the shady doctor. Finally, he mounted his patient and started having sexual intercourse with her. He asked, do you know what I'm doing now? Yes, she said. You're getting herpes, which is why I came here in the first place. And picks up her and takes her back to his room. She strips off all her clothes and all he does is stare at her. What, honey? Is this the first cat you've seen since you crawled out of one? No, it's just the first one I've seen big enough to crawl back into.